Hi everyone, I'm back with another new episode with Miriam today. Hi Miriam, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, Miriam. It's a pleasure to host you. One of the very new podcasts of this year, 2025. I'm very excited for this year. And Miriam was kind enough in 2024 to commit some time to us. So, Miriam, thank you for spending this time with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Absolute pleasure. Quick introduction. Who's Miriam? Miriam is the Chief Lending Officer of Audition Financial. She has, again, a lot of experience, right? She has 26 years of experience in the ecosystem of financial institutions with considerable number of years, more than 2 decades in credit union. Miriam is one of those very few individuals who have started their career right out of high school, right, with
Yep.
financial institutions. And after coming to credit union, she never went back. Like all of us, right? We are really, really into the mission, and we believe in it. Uh, a brief background about Miriam, again, 26 years of experience. She started her career across member services, did some collections, legal, before moving to additions. She's almost 20 years in addition right now.
Yep.
Uh, she does a bunch of things. She's a chief lending officer. She leads anything lending, right? Starting with residential, consumer, commercial, and loan servicing. Pretty much almost everything that's consumer facing in lending is what she does. Miriam, I hope I'm able to do some justice to your introduction. In case I've missed something, please feel free to add.
No, you did great. You covered it all.
I hope so. So we took around what 1 minute 45 seconds to do it. I mean, ideally this would have been much way longer, but I tried cutting it short because she's got a bunch of things to talk about, right? So let's start the show with the first question, Miriam. Right? You do a lot. You do a lot of things in the credit union, a lot of departments, a lot of products, a huge team to manage. So what keeps you going as a whole?
So really what keeps me going as a whole is the impact that I have on other people's lives and their well-being. So obviously being over all of the lending areas, I have the opportunity to really help people, whether it's with, that first credit card, getting their first vehicle loan, helping them buy their first home. There's so many major life events that I feel that I contribute to with people in our community. And so that, along with the fact that I do have a fairly large team, and I love working with them and helping to develop them and watching them, move throughout their career into
Absolutely.
different roles as well. So, really, just that impact that I have on other people's lives is what gets me up and going every day.
That's a fantastic, well crafted answer, right? Because at the end of the day, you need a mission and a vision, right? You just cannot function as robots every day. You need a mission and vision to work with, and it's very clear from the way you speak that yes, you have a clear mission because of which you wake up in the morning every day, go to your credit union, and serve members. It helps
Yes.
people achieve financial goals, right? That's the only thing that's amazing. Now again, while I was hinting upon your journey, right? 26 years, Miriam, it's very long, right? So we would love to know more about your journey, right? How did you decide that you want to work with banks and then move to credit unions? So how did it, work out?
Yeah. So, I mean, I started out of high school working at a large bank, and it was really just a job for me at that time while I was going to college. I really didn't think I would end up being in banking as my career. I was actually going to school as a psychology major, and so I was working as a teller, and really that was just my way to put myself through school. And as I transitioned to the credit union world, I only worked for a commercial bank for about a year, and I transitioned to the credit union world, and I started to realize like the difference that people in credit unions were making in the lives of people in their community. And so I started to realize that maybe psychology wasn't my path and that I wanted to transition and stay in the financial services industry. So I switched over to a business major in college, and I worked at the credit union for while I went to school. I did multiple roles. I worked in branch operations. I worked in collections. I did some legal, like with bankruptcy and lawsuits. And then when I moved over to Addition in 2005, that's when I really got into the lending area. And I started with residential real estate lending. I was a processor. So I really learned everything about lending in that area. And over the years, I got promoted to lead the department, and I oversaw the production side as well as the servicing side. And I did that for about 10 years until I was offered the opportunity to lead all of the lending areas. And that's really when I started to learn about the consumer side and the commercial side and more of the secondary market when it came to selling consumer participations. And so that's what I oversee today is all of those areas. But I think that my foundation with starting in a branch and working with members and really understanding collections was really a great foundation for me to kind of pave the way for me to get to the role I'm in today. I think having that firsthand experience of understanding and doing transactions and processing loans, it helps me to better relate to our members and to my employees.
I mean, that's table stakes, right? I mean, you've been such a hands-on leader. You starting your journey from being a processor to lead lending for a credit union. I think that journey is very important to stitch all the pieces together, right? Because unless you are hands-on yourself, it's very theoretical, right? So I think that's the reason you've been doing this fantastic role over the years, and we just wish you all the best, Miriam. I mean, for whatever you do, for whatever difference that you make to the community that's surrounding you, we are really grateful for whatever you do.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's great to take that experience. And I tell my team this all the time. When you have a seat at the table, tap into that previous experience and make sure that you do speak up and that you share your experiences with other senior leaders, because that's how we change for the better, right? So tapping into all that experience and all of your history that you have to make better changes for the future.
Absolutely. I mean, previous experiences are so important. I mean, I do not have that illustrious career as of yours. I have around close to a decade, but my previous experience with Accenture doing consulting and now with the Excel, my previous experience has helped me so much in whatever I do today. I think every role, if taken seriously, has enormous impact or effect on the next role that you do, and that's what you did going forward. You started as a processor and gradually moving up to the ladder and becoming a CLO. So it's a classical journey of how to progress within an organization with a mission in mind, right?
Right.
That's fantastic. Now, Miriam, I mean, I know about your current role. I mean, do you want to expand a bit more on what your current role is? I know that you do residential, consumer, commercial, and servicing. But if you want to just expand a bit on whatever, I mean, how does a typical day look like, or what is your current role? It'll be a good addition to the interview.
Yeah, so I mean, I pretty much oversee all the strategy that is related to any of those areas. So when we talk about, new product development or how are we going to do consumer outreach, how do we structure our products on the consumer side? For example, we have a lot of integration with high school students and colleges, and one of the big things that we receive feedback on is how do we help those college students specifically get their first credit card. And so we went through multiple iterations of how do we make it to where they can actually qualify, but at the same time, we are protecting them so they don't end up defaulting and we don't end up having losses. So a lot of thought goes into our product creation, how we deploy those products, how we manage them. And then even when it flows into the servicing side, when we talk about how do we help members that may be experiencing some type of hardship, what are some solutions that we have? How do we engage with them? How do we ensure that we help them get through that moment in their life? So at a high level, I help set those strategies and those initiatives. And then I work with my direct reports who obviously they help to roll out a lot of those initiatives, and then oversee them as we manage the performance of the portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very 360 view of the entire work, right? I mean, linked to performance. That's great. Uh, Moving to the next question, that's very related to your current role. I mean, I'm a data scientist by profession, so I always geek out at times. Can't help, right? That's who I am. So I've been using data, Miriam, at least for the last decade for myself for decisioning, right? Be it at banks to retailers, healthcare, oil and gas, everywhere, right? So I know the power of data. that I've seen at least through my career. And obviously, you look at, the market is not easy. You got to compete with the large banks, with the neobanks, fintechs, even the community banks. Right?
Hmm.
So using data is gradually becoming table stakes for any decisioning across the ecosystem. I mean, in your world, right? Starting with underwriting to collections to servicing, all of it is very much driven by data.
Yep.
So, how is Addition using data as I would say, as a cornerstone to drive decisioning as a whole in the credit union?
Yeah, so it's interesting because we just had a senior management strategy meeting earlier this week, and every year we like to do a SWOT analysis and talk about, what are our strengths and our weaknesses, our opportunities and threats. And we all agree that Addition Financial is a data-driven organization. We do not make decisions unless there is data to back it up. So we probably about 7 years ago created a business intelligence department, and we have a whole team of data analysts, data scientists that we work with to help us make decisions. So not only do we have it internally, but as the chief lending officer, I have a lot of external partners that I work with that help with decisions that we make, such as, what are our credit tier cutoffs that we want to set based on performance, historical performance, and potential future performance. How we price loans, there's a lot of data analytics that goes into that. Which loans we decide to sell versus retain on our portfolio. We put a lot of analytics into that as well. So we are very much focused on data. I can think back to 10 years ago, we made decisions just based on feelings. And like I said, about 7 or 8 years ago, we said we need to change because that doesn't work for us. And we really need to make sure that any decision that we're making, any change that we're implementing, it's backed by data that's been validated and that is accurate. And so we are heavily reliant on multiple sources for data analytics to make any decisions in the credit union.
Yeah, I mean, that's good to hear, Miriam, right? Because without data, what we have is just opinions, right? And in today's world, with the stiff competition, again, reiterate the fact that I mean, I'm really impressed by what you're doing right now by using data. This is more of a broader discussion to have than just a couple of minutes. But in the interest of time, I'll try move on and not geek out on data again in the podcast because this podcast is not data but about celebrating journeys of women leaders like you. So let me just try to move on to the next question, right? Uh, Now, obviously, across the years, Miriam, you starting as a professor, now as chief learning officer, financial services ecosystem, be it in the large commercial bank that you used to work with, to credit unions, right? Uh, I haven't seen a lot of female leaders in C levels of decent sized credit unions, at least of size of 2 billion plus, right? But you are one of the very few female leaders that I've seen who is in a C-suite of a credit union, right?
Yep.
It's not a very frequent, and hence this podcast celebrating people like you, right? So let's today speak up. Let's speak about the challenges, right? Obviously, life has not been a bed of roses for you for sure. Being a female leader, do you want to talk about challenges that you've faced across the years, and how have you encountered them and solved for them?
Yeah. I mean, I would say, earlier in my career specifically, it was very challenging. There were many of times that I felt that I was not given the same opportunities as my male counterparts. And sometimes it was because I was a female, sometimes it was because I was younger, or at least that's the way that I felt in that moment in time. So I think really having to prove myself. I feel that I've worked really hard to get to where I am, and I really had to put in a lot of time. I had to make sure that I educated myself. And I have to say, the biggest thing for me is you never really know who is paying attention to what you're doing and the successes that you're having. And that's how I got to the role that I am because we had a change in our CEO position, and our current CEO used to be our general counsel. And so I worked through a lot of the Dodd-Frank changes, which I had to work with the legal team a lot on. not realizing that he would be our future CEO and that it would open doors for me because I was just doing my job in that moment. But looking back, I was doing what I thought was right. I was putting in the effort, and someone else was paying attention that later said to me, "Hey, I think that you'd be great for this role that I have on my team." And so to me, I think just not never taking a step back, just always continuing to put the hard work in and
Yep.
believing in myself and not listening to the naysayers is what got me to where I am. But there were definitely a lot of challenges, and I will say in the lending field, especially like chief lending officers, you
Yep.
don't see a lot of women. It is definitely a
Very.
male dominated position. And so many times I'll go to conferences or events and, I'm surrounded by 90% men. And I've had female leaders come to me and say, "How did you get to that chief lending officer position? It's just not common to see a woman there." And I'm like, perseverance, like never give up. Keep on doing what you need to do and showing, that you
I know.
understand that you can be in the role and that you can lead a team.
Absolutely. I think you overstated by saying it 10%. Uh, as a matter of fact, out of 55 guests, you're the 56th guest. Out of 56 guests, I think, you're the third CLO that I'm talking to now.
Yeah.
Christy, Erica, that's you, and you're third. There are hardly any chief lending officers I've seen who are women leaders. And I feel so good, right? When I see a CLO as a woman, I'm like, okay, yes, this credit union is up for change. They are looking forward to making that stride again. That's great to hear. And firstly, I'm really sorry, for you having this experience throughout your career. But again, you solved your own thing.
Right.
Perseverance is the key, right? Perseverance is the key that you would recommend to all aspiring female leaders, right? Not only in lending but across the ecosystem. Even
Yeah.
in even in technology, marketing still sees a lot of women leaders, but technology, lending,
Right.
hardly any women leaders I've seen. It's very rare.
Yeah. And I think it's finding somebody too that can help mentor you and, that can help guide you because that's really important as well. To just getting that confidence and that foundation that you need to move into a role like a chief lending officer role.
Oh yes, that's for sure. I think mentorship. If you ask about me personally, irrespective of the fact of uh, female or male, gender neutral, I think mentorship has played a huge role in whatever I do today. And it's not necessary that you have the same mentor throughout the years. Your mentors can change for different perspective. Maybe for my personal life, I have a mentor. For whatever I do at my podcast, I have a mentor. For my work at EXL, I have a mentor. So you might have different mentors,
Yep.
but having mentors is so important, Miriam. I can't stress more, and you echo the same thing, right? So it's again a clear, I would say, message to all of the listeners, to all aspiring leaders, be it male or female, that guys, you need mentors. And I think, Miriam, I at least know a few of my friends who are looking forward to reaching the sea level within lending. I think you would be open to connecting with them. That's Miriam. You can add her on LinkedIn and and just drop her a note. She's really busy with her work, but she'll just try to respond to you guys because we need more people like you, Miriam, who can encourage aspiring female leaders to take up the next role, who fear even speaking up, right? So that's something which we would request you if you can do it for our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. I've mentored many of people throughout my career, and I have some people that used to work here that have went on to different careers that I still keep in touch with, and they reach out to me for advice. So to me, it's very beneficial to both parties because I learn from the people that I mentor as well. I learn something new every time I talk to somebody that I've mentored. So I think it's that continuous education, that continuous improvement, and one person helping another, vice versa.
Absolutely. Uh, Now, moving to the next question, very much related to your journey. So, I want to ask you. This is a very common question I almost ask everyone. So, I'll ask you the same question because I find it very valuable. Uh, is any piece of advice, right? So, what if you were to advise Miriam 26 years back, right? Maybe anything you would have done differently, or any advice that you would have given a
Yeah.
Miriam
So
360 roll back. Yep, that will be great.
my advice that I would have given myself, and I give this advice to people that I talk to all the time, is to not doubt yourself, to believe in yourself and to never pass up opportunities. So I think many times, especially as females, we tend to feel like we're, imposter syndrome. Like, why am I sitting at this table? I shouldn't be here. I don't have enough experience, or I don't have enough knowledge to be here. And I think you have to remove that way of thinking, and you have to position yourself to where every time you're invited to participate in something, you say yes, whether it scares you or not. I mean, I can tell you, years ago, I probably would have not been comfortable doing podcasts and, actually speaking in front of large groups of people, but I forced myself to do those things because I had to remind myself I'm fully capable of doing that.
Yes.
And once you do it, you get more comfortable with it, you grow and you get better. And so my thing is just never say no to opportunities. Always say yes, because it's an opportunity to learn and grow, whether it turns into something grand or not. It's still something that you've experienced that you can then tap into later and learn from it.
Absolutely. Tapping onto your experience, I want to share something about myself, Miriam. If a data geek like me, data geek plus introvert like me, I'll be very honest, right? The financial institutions with whom I bank, the IVR still does not understand my Indian accent. And let's face it, that's reality, right? If
Right.
someone like me can interview 55, 54 leaders like you in 9 months, then anything can happen for sure, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yep. You just
absolutely.
gotta you just gotta believe in it and you gotta
That's
move
all.
forward.
That's all. That's all. Exactly. I know, we are short of time. I don't want to keep you, in the podcast for more than the hour that we have promised. But I want to quickly end this version one of the podcast, because I'm sure that we'll do multiple versions of the same podcast talking to you, because you've got a very interesting journey. But let's end the first version of the podcast with one question. Uh, Now, I personally feel that 2025 is unique. It should be better than 2024. Rates have gone down, but again, every geography is different. Florida is very different from New York, where I'm based out of, right? Rates have gone down, but again, the market is still really competitive in Florida. We're just discussing that mortgages are drying up, and that's reality, right? That you cannot do
Right.
much about it. There's only just part of the pie. But what do you think is 2025, in your 2 cents, looking for both addition as well as for the entire credit union ecosystem?
Yeah, so I think 2025 is still going to be a challenging year. I think we're still dealing with very elevated prices, elevated interest rates. Inflation is still an issue. Wages are an issue. And Florida, because we have so many people moving to our market, we're getting tons of people moving from the West Coast
Oh,
as well as the
yes.
Northeast. It's creating a lot of challenges for native Floridians, right, who are looking to buy a home or to, move
Obviously.
up to that next level. So I think that 2025 is still going to be a very challenging year for us across the spectrum when it comes to mortgages, even when it comes to auto loans, because again, the cost of living is so expensive right now that I just think people are struggling to make basic payments. So I believe we're going to see things get a little bit worse before it gets better. So I think 2025 is going to be kind of a bottom year in a sense, to kind of where we see things drop a little bit more. And then I think in 2026, we'll start to see things slowly start to rebound a little bit and people start to be in a better financial situation.
Yeah, because this is a very unique situation of Florida, because people are moving in. The exodus of people from other states, especially New York, right? A bunch of my friends moved to Florida, and it's just because the amazing things that the state has to offer, right? We all love Florida, and hence, because of this, the mortgage prices are like skyrocketing, right? It's
Right.
phenomenal. I
Yeah, and
completely agree.
specifically with that, if someone is selling a home in New York or California and they're relocating to Florida, they're coming with some cash. So they are beating out the average buyer here in Florida that can only afford to buy a 200 or $250,000 home, which there are barely any of those on the market. So, they're competing with these people that are coming in with higher dollars, better offers, able to have better offers on homes. So it's definitely going to continue to be a challenge, I think, until things level out a little bit, and especially until mortgage rates start to come down.
Come down. Absolutely. So, Miriam, this was a fantastic summary of how this year will look like according to you. And again, thank you for your time today, Miriam. This is amazing. And again, thanks for your time. We would look forward to being in touch. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.